Let me tell you about another variation of the front raise. The front raise can be done like this, or it can be done like this, and then there's also this kind of front raise. Is there any difference? Let me explain further. There's the front raise with palms facing each other like this. There's also this kind of front raise. And there's this type of front raise, and after adding in the small lateral raise, you can do the front raise with a kickback like this. There are many variations, but actually, you may have practiced all these movements, yet you might not be able to clearly distinguish their specific differences. Each movement has a different angle, and the differences between them are not the same. So, which angle your client should choose for lateral raises, or which angle for front raises, depends on the condition of their thoracic curve, the shape of their muscles, and their needs, whether they have trouble lifting at the front, in the middle, or at the back. Then, is their thoracic spine straightened or is it arched like a board? Where exactly is their scapula sticking out? By assessing these factors, you can determine which movements are most suitable for them at this stage. And does he have any symptoms? Does he feel pain as soon as he does this movement? If so, you definitely can't have him do it that way. Let me ask you, if you were his coach and your current client has a compressed posterior rib cage, a straightened thoracic curve, and I ask you to choose a front raise movement or a lateral raise movement, one is in front of the body, one is to the side, and one uses a small cable machine behind the body, which would you pick? Which one would you choose? Would you pick the one here or here or here, the further to the side of the body? The further behind the body, the easier it is for the thoracic spine to extend. Do you understand? The further back you raise it, the more your thoracic spine extends. And when you lower it, you can't bring it all the way down because your outer thigh gets in the way. Then if you use a small cable machine, when you lower it, your torso is laterally bent. Your torso is in lateral flexion, and you're still pulling like this, so your thoracic spine is also locked in an extended position. So only when you lower it in front of your body at this moment, the lower part holds the thoracic spine in flexion. In other words, all the posterior mediastinum is compressed. Members whose thoracic curve has straightened should start lateral raises from the front of the body, not from the side. And definitely not from the back. Can you remember that? If you can't teach them proper coordination, just have them do it this way. Slightly lift your chin to inhibit the upper trapezius. The dumbbells should be in front of your body. When you lower them at this point, don't lock your thoracic spine. Don't do it like this. You need to find a way for the dumbbells to touch. Let me show you. Look. If I stick out my chest and lower the dumbbells, there's no way for them to touch each other. The dumbbells just can't meet because my thoracic spine is locked. So if you tell them not to stick out their chest, they might not understand. Instead, just tell them that when lowering the dumbbells in front, they need to touch each other, but the chin can't be tucked in. At this point, it becomes the thoracic spine area. And in the thoracic spine area, the dumbbells can touch. So this makes things very simple. You just need to focus on two things. First, when lifting, make sure your wrists don't move around. Second, when lowering, the dumbbells should touch in front. And at the same time, keep your chin up. At this point, the more flexible his thoracic spine is, if you have him do it this way, the more his thoracic spine compresses his posterior mediastinum, the more his shoulder joints will pop, and the more his acromion will impinge. But if you use this method, then when you go to the gym, maybe the coach will come over and say you're not doing it right? Usually that's what happens. The coach will correct you like this. Hey, shift your weight a bit forward, like this. So when you're practicing, see if you can do it like this, just like this. At this point, you'll notice that your body feels more and more relaxed and comfortable as you keep practicing. Your digestive function will also improve and your sleep will get better too. Did you all understand? Good. After they understand, you pick up the dumbbells and do it together. Let the people below treat you as their coach. Watch and see if anyone is doing it incorrectly. There are also small barbells. You can do front raises. Let me tell you, when you lower the front raise, as long as you lift it to your chin, isn't your thoracic spine also curved? It's the same when you lower it all the way down. So whether you're doing front raises or lateral raises, if you want your deltoids to be properly engaged, to inhibit the upper trapezius, the method is the same. Those of you doing lateral raises should face everyone, and those doing front raises should also face everyone. Let's all face each other and do it together. Right, the Olympiad contestant can stand in the center position. Get ready. Remember to inhale. Ready. Begin. There are already several mistakes. Can you spot them? Who's doing it? Is he doing it wrong? Yes. Is there a problem with this one? Yes. Is there a problem with this one? Yes. How about this one? Also a problem. And this one? There's a problem too. How did he do it? Let me tell you, he did it like this. So after all this explanation, these are the movements they made after deliberately adjusting. If I hadn't explained, everyone would have done it wrong from the start. But even after my explanation and their adjustments, it's still like this. Do you know what your problem is? Here we go again, it's starting. Still the same. Turn to the side, move to the center. You need to be in the center. Now, take a look at this part here. And this is 10, right? Is there a heavier one? The heavier the weight, the easier it is for problems to show up early. Ready? Did you see that? The pattern is the opposite of before. Just now it was like this. Now it's like this. Can you see the difference? You don't feel it yourself? Right. So the two of us are about the same height and weight, but I feel like I can fit it in, while no matter how much he trains, his shoulders just won't get bigger. Let me tell you, the thinner and longer your neck is, the harder it is to build big shoulders, because you can't stabilize your head and neck well. If you can't control that, your shoulders will have issues bearing the load. He can't maintain proper head and neck positioning while training shoulders. He just can't do it. Especially the longer the main lever arm, the harder it is for him to do it. The further forward your hands are, the more likely you are to compensate with other muscles. At this point, problems are likely to occur. Let me show you another example. Hey, come over here. Which movement were you just doing? Yeah, you were gripping it like this. Now look at his issue. Here we go, the second rep, and the problem starts. Hey, on the third rep, he managed to control it a bit, but on the fourth, he reverted back. I'll give him yours. I want to make it so he can't control it. Now switch to a palms up grip. Go ahead. So, what am I teaching you right now? I'm teaching you how to spot mistakes your personal training clients make. If you can't even spot their mistakes, how can you correct them? I'm teaching you how to assess. See, did you notice? These are all textbook mistakes, and they're very well hidden. If I didn't point them out today, you wouldn't even realize they're mistakes, because you all do the same thing. Now let's look at a female student's example. Hey, come over here. Stand to the side. Now face everyone and do it again. Did you see that? What's the problem here? It's that the further forward she goes, the more she tucks her chin back, and that's exactly how the natural curve of the cervical spine gets straightened out, because as soon as you lower and tuck in, your cervical curve becomes straight. And at the same time, your thoracic curve gets locked in an extended position, so your posterior mediastinum is compressed like this. That's how shoulder popping and shoulder impingement happen. That's why so many bodybuilders, even after 20 years of training, they still haven't managed to build bigger shoulders. They think it's a genetic issue, but it's not. It's because no teacher has ever taught you how to properly build your shoulders, and no teacher has ever corrected your faulty movement patterns. So your upper trapezius always contracts before your shoulders do. And your scapula is always moving upward while your humerus moves downward. How could they possibly roll and glide smoothly like that? That's why so many cases of frozen shoulder are so hard to treat, especially for people who love working out. Because just after you get it fixed, as soon as you start pressing or flying again, everything falls apart. You end up ruining everything. Your damage always outweighs my efforts to rebuild, so how could it ever get better? The scans you take always show things like biceps long head tendonitis, supraspinatus tendonitis, subacromial bursitis, or rotator cuff tears. These are all just the results. Next, what else do I want you to notice? Even if the chin is kept in check, if the thoracic spine is also locked up at the same time, that's still a problem. So, in a normal movement process, it should be like this. When performing the movement, whether it's a lateral raise or a front raise, there should always be coordinated movement. Only then will your body not become stiffer the more you train. However, most people coordinate the movement using their lumbar spine and hip joints. So it ends up being this kind of coordination. This kind of coordination ends up being driven by the erector spinae muscles. Especially when your center of gravity shifts forward and you bend your hips more, the more you lift up like this, the more you initiate the movement with lumbar extension. The more likely you are to arch your lower back, and the more likely your lower back muscles will bulk up. This is especially common among women. It's easiest to train this way and end up doing lateral raises all wrong. So actually, you can postpone doing lateral raises. The key is to observe the natural thoracic flexion during the eccentric lowering phase when you release the weight. In other words, as long as you don't deliberately control your thoracic spine and just let it move naturally, it will work as intended. The more you try to interfere with it, the more it gets stuck in that position. When you do lateral raises, as long as the dumbbells can touch, then you initiate the movement. Thoracic spine extension, then lower thoracic spine flexion, and once you stabilize your head and neck, your posterior mediastinum will be engaged. When you do front raises, it's like this. It's not just lifting straight up. Because if you lift straight up, as the angle of your shoulder increases, your thoracic spine will inevitably extend. So, for front raises, you push forward and lift upward. Pushing forward means your thoracic spine moves backward. It also means your scapulae are pressed against your back. So, when you use the pec deck machine, at first, the pec deck provides a backward pulling force. So when you do front raises, you do them like this, like this, like this. This way, you can really define the groove at the junction between your deltoid and upper trapezius. If you just lift straight up, then as soon as you use heavy weights, your erector spinae will kick in and your thoracic spine will become rigid again. So, pushing forward is to help your chest maintain its natural curve and to suppress your erector spinae. The movement should actually be done like this. Actually, it should be like this. When you lift, there should be a forward force. With this forward force, your chest curve comes out. But if I only use an upward force, I end up like this. So when you're doing a front raise, what kind of feeling should you look for? You should feel like you're throwing the dumbbell forward from here. You want to find that feeling, the sensation of throwing it forward, which is the forward force. Look, I'm turning my back to you. Right, just throw it forward. This way your scapula sticks, but if I just go straight up, it turns into this. Can you see the difference? Do you see the difference? This is the traditional front raise. Did you see it? All right, the more you throw it forward, the longer your lever arm becomes, the easier it is to train the origin of your deltoid, and the more you open up the gap between your humerus and the socket. This way, you're less likely to cause impingement. The more you lift straight up, the more likely you are to cause impingement. And if you tuck your chin, your scapula gets lifted up and your humerus collides upwards even more easily, so it becomes even more likely when you tuck your chin. Right? When your scapula is lifted and you raise your arm straight up, that's actually spinal extension. So in just one movement, you end up making several mistakes. Your thoracic curve gets locked, your erector spinae muscles get overdeveloped, your cervical curve gets straightened, your upper trapezius becomes thick from compensation, and at the same time, your acromion impinges and your deltoids don't get developed at all. That's the destructive power of just one movement. And how did you end up training yourself into this state step by step? Many coaches say, I don't know, but isn't this exactly how you do a front raise? I'm telling you. The name already tells you. For a front raise, you need to go forward first. Front raise means going forward and then raising. Going forward is even more important than just raising. If you turn a front raise into just a lateral raise, then where is the front? You have to go forward. This way your thoracic spine can extend and your scapula can stay in place. So I suggest, especially if you're in a yoga studio or a Pilates studio, when you first start doing front raises, don't let members use dumbbells because they're hard to control. Because when you swing them forward, it's easy for the arms to extend backward. Use a small cable machine instead, since its main resistance is pulling backward. This way, it's easier for you to push forward. When you push forward and lift like this, you just need to control the lowering phase. When you release and lower it, the thoracic spine will flex. Then, when you lift, as you push forward, your shoulder blades will come together. That's it. These are details you won't find in books, and even if you ask your teacher, they might not really understand them. But these are things you practice every day, so you should understand them, right? Because I treat them as your members, but actually their level is much higher than your members. Your members make even more serious mistakes. Next, let's use the small Smith machine, dumbbells and barbells, and you can try lateral raises and front raises. See if your posterior mediastinum is stuck in a compressed position, and see if you can control your head and neck. Let's begin.